Hello, my dear friends. Welcome to my channel or welcome back. My name is Sarita and I have a single candle for you today from Bath & Body Works. It is ginger and hinoki. Looks like this. Kind of a wraparound. It was yellow wax. I burned it all the way down to the wick clips. And this was part of the mini collection for Asian American and Pacific Islander month. Really came out fairly recently, within the last like 3 weeks, I think. There were 4 candles, ginger hinoki, there was a eucalyptus one, eucalyptus bamboo, I think, bamboo eucalyptus, toasted sesame, and gosh, what was the third one? Oh, soju, the cherry blossom soju one. For my money, and I'm going to stand behind this, I do think this is the most unique of the 4. The other 4 for me were kind of lackluster. And if you watch my haul of all 4 of them, I did say that I just kind of thought they were a little bit phoned in. The really unique elements that were most evocative, I think, of Asian culture were just they were drowned out by a lot of notes that are frankly fairly generic for Bath and Body Works. So unlike the Black History Month collection earlier this year, which was a knockout in my opinion, with Gwen Gonzalez, those 4, or at least 3 of them, were really a cut above, a cut above for Bath and Body Works, and a cut above certainly for these kind of mini collections. Unfortunately, this one does not even rise to the level that we saw with the Black History Month ones, and it makes me really upset. I do think the aesthetic too is kind of ho-hum. I appreciate the colored wax, but not a fan of the huge block label with a ton of words all over it, like a busy PowerPoint that you just can't even read until it like goes away. So I'm not terribly happy not only with the aesthetic but also with the candles. And I do think that this ginger and hinoki was the only candle of the 4 that at least has the potential to be something unique, something we haven't smelled before. But let's talk about it, right? Ginger hinoki, the notes on it are fresh ginger, hinoki wood, and orange zest. So hinoki wood is a very specific kind of wood. I believe it's primarily seen in Japan. And I just kind of have the vaguest sense of hinoki wood because I haven't had the opportunity to just smell hinoki wood itself, which would be amazing to do. Always my impression of hinoki wood is that it was very deep, very rich, but also not like off-putting. Some deep, rich woods can be super leathery. I'm kind of looking at you, birch, and also for mahogany, maybe a little bit too musky, too wine-like, to get like a really good general audience. My impression with hinoki is that it was very rich and kind of resinous in that way, but also kind of like calming at the same time. That was always my impression, but I can't say that I have any more expertise in hinoki wood than probably a lot of you guys do. And then we don't need any kind of review of what orange zest is or fresh ginger. So as everybody noticed, myself included, upon smelling it, it was just super weak in the store, and it was hard in the store to even get a good sense of it, except that in the store, I was getting a very strong ginger note, which is what you want to see on a candle that is named ginger and hinoki, yeah? So no, no like false advertising there. It is really a ginger candle. And what I appreciated from what I could smell of it in the store is that it was a true fresh ginger kind of smell rather than like a dry baking spice ginger that we definitely would see, especially in conjunction with like pumpkin spice blends in the fall season. It is unusual, I think, to get a ginger candle that has that really bright, fresh, like the ginger knobs that you peel and that you mince. And I suspect it's a very difficult note to come across in home fragrance, especially upon having burned this one, and just for the fact that we don't see that many candles that have that really fresh, like zesty kind of ginger authentic note to them. This one has it though, and it had it on the top. And then there is like a vague woodiness underneath. I don't know that I would have called it out as Hinoki, but it is like I said, it's kind of, but it's a weird wood note. Anyway, I took it home because of the four. I thought it was the least generic, especially in Bath and Body Works' catalog, but frankly across the board, and I still stand to that. Yeah. Now, having burned it down, I am getting a lot of like carbon residue smell at this point because there's hardly any wax and it's just a lot of like discoloration. Did burn like a dream, absolutely no sooting, and kind of self-trimmed all the way down. It didn't burn hot and furious like some Bath and Body Works candles can, so really was great in terms of like the burn quality. It's just a really weird candle. Not an unpleasant one, but weird. I have to say that unfortunately, upon it being burned, those beautiful, natural, fresh ginger notes sunk into the candle. And I got really kind of a strong, warm, almost brassy, dried ginger note, which I was not noticing before this point. So either that fresh ginger note transformed into kind of, not in a good way, it morphed back into like a more dull, dry ginger note, or they did, which would have been smart, they had the fresh ginger note and then amplified underneath it with like a more, generic and more standard dried ginger note to kind of like fortify it a little bit. And then unfortunately, the fresh ginger kind of burned or lifted off or sunk into it. And all that was left was like that kind of like dry, savory, bakery spice kind of ginger. Which I don't think it's not as brilliant, it's not as fresh, it's not as original. And to be perfectly honest, given the strength in the throw, I had to burn it back in my back bedroom. And I can't say that I really wanted a dry baking spice ginger back there. It got a little like kitchen spice feeling for me, as opposed to something that was like fresh and spa-like, which I think that fresh ginger was kind of leaning more into, especially with like the wood underneath, that for many of you might feel a little bit teak-like. Yeah, so teak and ginger, it really kind of can take you to a spa-like place, which would be appropriate for more of an intimate, like master bedroom, master bathroom kind of place. But then when it went very like dry baking spice, it just kind of lost it. And it seemed much more appropriate for like a kitchen fragrance than for a back bedroom fragrance. So I didn't love it. I didn't love that like morph for sure. The strength and throw was not good, but I have to say that it improved a little bit upon burning. And I have noticed that although Bath and Body Works' candles of late have been far less strength than they traditionally are and should be, I don't know, they might be like tweaking a new formula or something. These like Shire candles actually do tend to do better as you burn them and as you burn them long. And because they're really good, I suspect maybe a little bit more soy in them than paraffin. so that they burn very, very clean, and you can burn them for longer than a traditional Bath and Body Works candle. I still wouldn't go hog on it and burn them for like 6 hours or something, but they're definitely more soy resilient in that respect. But it also means that, as with a soy, you do need to burn it fairly long for it to get to the heat level that gives you some kind of strength and throw. So that means that with some of these Bath and Body Works, this one included, burning it long did give me more as I went along. And by more, I mean that back in that master bedroom with, actually I put it in my master bathroom and then allow it to filter into the master bedroom with the French doors closed. I could get it up to anywhere between a 5 to a 6 or a 6.5. Generally speaking, candles that go back there because they can't handle the open concept, they generally do better than 5 or 6.5. They can usually get up to a 7 in that enclosed space. So I would say even for a back bedroom candle, it was a little on the shy side. I could get it up to 5, I could get it up to 6, but it took a lot of time. More time than I think a lot of people have. However, I did not have to bring it into the guest bathroom and close the door. Or the guest bathroom and not close the door. So I can't say that it was completely unscented. When I tried it out here as an open concept for the first couple burns, it did seem completely unscented. I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, it just, you could not, you could not smell it at all. So this is a candle that you do have to nurse and that you have to be thoughtful about where you put it, how long you burn it, etc. Do I love candles like that? No, I don't. I really don't. And what I appreciate actually about Bath & Body Works candles is that for the most part, you burn them up and within a half an hour, they are strength and throw. They've reached their like ceiling for the most part in terms of whatever their strength and throw is. So 0 to 60, Bath and Body Works candles kind of get up to where they need to be very quickly and then stay there consistently. And generally the Bath and Body Works candles have better strength and throw than something like this. But like I said, I kind of am curious about if they're trying maybe more soy in some of these candles, because many of these are burning as if they're more like soy candles as opposed to paraffin or paraffin blend. I'm not a fan of that, but I have made it no secret that I'm not a huge fan of soy. And I think that soy, even soy blends, but certainly 100% soy, I just don't think it's for a general audience, because I think to get a satisfactory experience with soy, not only do you have to have a candle developer that can work miracles, but then you also have to be one of those people that can work miracles in your house with soy. They're just, the soy formulas, the soy blends, if there's a good amount of soy in them, let alone like 100% soy, like you can't just kind of light them, you know, set and forget. Like you just really can't. You have to almost be like a soy whisperer in your house. And I know a lot of us are just either not up to that challenge or don't want to be up to that challenge. And so what I do appreciate about Bath & Body Works up to this point is that, you know, whatever else you can say about Bath & Body Works candles and their burn quality, etc., we didn't have to be soy whisperers. We just didn't. But some of these candles are kind of coming across that way, and I would say Ginger Hinoki is very solidly in that category. I know a lot of people have returned it or said that it's unscented. For me, in my experience, it wasn't unscented, but you did have to do a lot to kind of figure out how to get the blood out of the turnip, if you will, which I know is not the most, it's not the most felicitous idiom. Yeah, I mean, I could get it up to a 5 or a 6, and I do think that it's fairly unique. I do think that it's about one fragrance note shy, though, of being a really rich, complex, exciting fragrance. So while it is unique, I just think it needs one other element. And I do think that it really needs to stay in the fresh ginger realm rather than the dry bakery spice realm, which just kind of deadened the fragrance, I think, and took it to a place that was far less unique, if that makes sense. So it definitely needs retooled. And for me personally, if I have to just say it in one word, this candle is just not good enough. It's not good enough. I do think, and I still stand by it, I do think it has the most potential and the most uniqueness of the 4 that they gave us in this mini collection, but it is just not good enough. It's not good. It's certainly not good enough for a general audience, and it's not even good enough for those of us who are like really serious candle buyers, and even the luxury candle buyers amongst us who have a much higher patience and threshold for avant-garde candles. It's just not good enough. Yeah. 2 other little things that I wanted to say about this. I shared with you that I got that like vintage Bath and Body Works haul off of Marketplace, and I was smelling one of the candles, a while back. And when I smelled it, I set them here on my ledge, at least the ones that are on my on deck circle. And this one was on my on deck circle. This is one of the minis here from Harry Slatkin, Veranda Garden. This beautiful like green color, which for very obvious seasonal reasons was kind of in my on deck circle. And I smelled it and I immediately thought to myself, is that ginger Hinoki? There was something in it that just reminded me so much of this candle that I had just picked up, ginger and Hinoki. So I started comparing them. Don't get it twisted. Veranda Garden doesn't have any ginger in it, but there was a certain quality to the fragrance and the fragrance profile that reminded me of ginger and Hinoki. So then I started looking on the back. Veranda Garden has citrus, white cedar wood, and a hint of freshly cut grass. So Veranda Garden with the freshly cut grass, for me, it's got a white floral dimension to it. I'm not getting as much grass as I'm getting like a really soft, like white blossom. But then the rest of the candle is the same, like kind of funky, complex wood note that is in here. And it makes sense because this one is Hinoki wood and orange zest, and this one is white cedar wood and citrus. And they're very similar. So this one subs out ginger for what is a white blossom here, but the wood note underneath is almost exactly the same. So it was just kind of like a really interesting discovery for me. This is a fragrance note that I haven't smelled a whole lot, and I think I've identified what it is. It's the smell of what happens when you have like a really deep, like almost musky wine-like wood infused with citrus. So if you had that wood and then you infused it or like drenched it in like citrus juice, that's what the smell would be. And they're exactly the same. So weird. I just wish sometimes, unless you have the opportunity to just like smell Hinoki wood or smell Palo Santo or smell like ambergris or something like that, which would be incredible. And believe me, I've looked on the internet for like, is there like a smelling kit that would just give you like little samples of like sandalwood or ambergris or like specific florals, just so that you could really smell them in an intense way, even if they were just oils? Oh my gosh, I would love that. And if you know of something like that, let me know. But I would say for most of us, especially as we use home fragrance for a very long period of time and become more practiced smelling things, we start to identify certain fragrances of woods or specific florals. We just start kind of like isolating them from particular fragrances that have that note in it. Yep. And then you just kind of discover, oh, I guess that's what hydrangea smells like. Or I guess that's what neroli smells like. Even if you've never smelled neroli before, like a scientist, you start kind of being like, I don't know, picking apart from a fragrance, almost kind of by reducing it down and like setting apart this fragrance note, I know this, I know this, I know this. The remainder of this candle must be this. don't know if this makes sense at all. Anyway, this was kind of a new fragrance note for me. And when I hauled Veranda Garden, I even said, I was like, this is not what I expect from Veranda Garden, like the concept. And it's a very odd smell. I said, again, not unpleasant, just odd. And then I encountered it again in this ginger Hinoki. And so now looking at the notes, I think I have isolated in my mind this amazing fragrance, which is a really deep wine-like wood. And by wine, I mean like the beverage, right? A really deep, deep kind of wood, rich, that is infused with citrus. That's what it smells like. And I don't know that I've ever smelled it before. And so anyway, close parentheses. Worth the price of admission on this candle, although it was disappointing in a lot of ways. Worth the price of admission was making that discovery of a certain kind of scent that frankly I had never smelled before and now is hopefully in my scent memory, however vague. The other candle that from the same Bath & Body Works haul was that was similar in like at least one way was this Fragrance Lab candle. And this was, what's the number on this? Somebody told me how to read numbers. This is a 7257. So I want to say this must have been a 2017. Am I reading it correctly? Oh my gosh, you guys gave me pointers on how to read Bath & Body Works labels. This is a 2017 candle, I think. Fragrance Lab, and it was one of the test candles. This one is called Spice. And the notes listed here are ginger, geranium, and cedar leaf. And when I hauled it, I did say this is, again, one of the few candles I've smelled that has a very bright, fresh ginger note in it. Not a baking spice ginger, a really true, like juicy knob of ginger kind of note. And it definitely does. And this one is even stronger a ginger note than this ginger Hinoki. And I don't know if this is important or not, but it does have cedar in here too, which is what's in Veranda Garden. So it kind of plows some of the space of these candles. If there's a wood note here though, it's real deep underneath. And they even said cedar leaf. So I don't know if it's like a really pronounced wood dimension. It's like almost a citrusy ginger. Again, it's just got that really like juicy, zesty, like bright kind of ginger note. So I'm really excited to burn this one, and it will be really interesting to see if it sinks too and morphs into like more of a dried spice ginger as opposed to the fresh one. Because if it sinks, then it goes to show you that maybe that like bright ginger, the fresh ginger note is just really hard to amplify in home fragrance, which I kind of would suspect, because a lot of like really authentic botanical notes are the same way, you know? Like when you smell them on cold, you can smell the brightness and the freshness, but then it just doesn't amplify the way other fragrance oils do. And I also wonder if, you know, going forward, like candle developers, in order to simulate that really bright, fresh ginger note, they may have to actually doctor something or give us some sort of like, what do they call it? An accord that may not even have fresh ginger in it, but when it comes across, it smells like fresh ginger. So actually in the same collection, that toasted sesame candle, for instance, Kent from Candle Channel gave this whole thing on how he actually watched Linda's song. She gave a video where she actually explained that toasted sesame comes across like toasted peanuts, actually, rather than a true sesame note. So she used the toasted sesame oil to make her like pumpkin peanut brittle candle or whatever else. And a lot of people are saying that that toasted sesame candle actually just smells a lot like pumpkin peanut brittle. And it's no coincidence, because she says that the toasted sesame oil actually smells more like peanuts than sesame. You know what I mean? So it may be kind of one of those situations where if they, a really true, authentic, fresh ginger note may just not come across as fresh ginger, in which case, like, candle developers are going to have to find some other accord of other things that may not even be ginger related that do come across as fresh ginger. Because definitely the fresh ginger note it just didn't last on the ginger and hinoki once burned. And so I'll have to see when I burn this one if it does the same thing. It just may be one of those really special and finicky notes that doesn't translate in home fragrance, and in order to simulate it, it's gonna take a lot of work and maybe a lot of elements that are not ginger or not fresh in order to kind of simulate the fragrance of it. Anyway, that was a lot on a very little candle, and a very little candle that was frankly not successful and that I can't highly recommend. But we had a great conversation about home fragrance, right? Right. So there you go. I can't really recommend ginger and hinoki except to people who are interested in something unique that they haven't smelled before. And for those of you out there, I want you to be super thoughtful about where you burn this candle. Please put it in an enclosed space. And adjust your expectations, because unfortunately the most brilliant ginger aspect of it kind of sinks into the candle. And so it's a little bit of a less brilliant fragrance once you burn it, but still unique. And stay for that like ginger infused wood, you know, or not ginger, citrus infused wood. That's interesting. And I would like to see Bath and Body Works maybe do something with it, because like I said, it's not unpleasant, it's just odd. Let's see a candle with a few more elements. Make some magic out of that. It's always kind of a moment, especially if you burn fragrance a lot for years and years and years. You just get used to the same thing over and over again. And so it's kind of special when you come across a scent that you haven't smelled before. And so although there's not a whole lot to recommend this candle, I think that's the most exciting aspect of it. And while this candle was not successful, it did not land in an adequate way. I would like to see Bath & Body Works do something with that citrus-infused wood that they have used before, obviously. Let's see what other magic can be made from that. Thanks so much for joining me. I will link ginger and hinoki down below. I suspect we're going to see it prominently in semi-annual sale. I will catch you guys in the next one.